Circuit of the Americas opened its doors in 2012 and immediately became one of the iconic road racing venues in North America. Located just outside the Texas state capital of Austin, the 20-turn, 3.426-mile circuit today plays host to the fourth race of the 2021 Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS season. Yesterday, K-Pax Racing drivers Andrea Caldarelli and Jordan Pepper left the track drenched, but in possession of their third straight win to start the campaign. But today, the rain has been replaced by resplendent sunshine, and 15 other crews have their sights set on stopping that streak. It is a unique track, and no better way to get a good look at it than by riding along with Jan Halen with our Porsche track preview.
Hi, my name is Jan Halen. Welcome to the Porsche track preview as we get ready to start a lap at Circuit of the Americas in the ROBBY Motorsports Porsche. Coming onto the front straightaway, out of turn 20, first gear all the way up to fifth gear, almost reaching 240 kilometers an hour. Hard brake zone up the hill, down the first gear. Very good place to overtake. Very wide on entry, down the hill into turn 2. Fourth gear flat out, and then reaching almost 230 kilometers an hour for the brake zone here into the S's, down to third, back to power, into turn 6, back to power, using all the curbing here on the inside, getting ready for that transition into turn 7. Again, hard on the curbs, on the brakes here, down the first, up the hill, using up all the track here on the entry, trying not to exceed track limits as we go down the hill. And now going into one of the first hairpins here at Circuit of the Americas. Great place to overtake. Braking at the 100th. Fifth gear, down the first. Very wide again on the entry. And again, trying not to exceed track limits coming onto the back straightaway. This is the longest straightaway here at the Circuit of the Americas. So it creates a good opportunity to overtake again into turn 12. Braking just past the 150 sign, hard on the brakes here, 6th gear down the first, big compression here at the apex of 12, back to power, 3rd gear, down the first, big rotation here, and then we get to what is going to be the slowest corner here at Circuit of the Americas. 1st gear, turn 15 here, and then ready to drive into the famous carousel. Triple right-hander. Very hard to get this right. A little bit of push here, car gets a little loose in the middle, back to power, and then ready for turn 19, which it's always a tough corner not to exceed track limits. Race control always watching over us there. Hard on the brakes, down the first again for turn 20, and onto the front straightaway. And that was a lap here at Circuit of the Americas.
Jan Halen, a birthday boy yesterday, taking us around Circuit of the Americas. Let's take a look at the global championship that is the Fanatec GT World Challenge, powered by AWS, a manufacturer's championship. Points scored across 4 continental series from the SRO in the U.S. and Canada, as well as Europe, Asia, and Australia. The new Fanatec GT World Challenge, powered by AWS championship. You can see here the manufacturers involved in the championship so far and where they stand. Great initiative from the SRO to make this a championship for the manufacturers. Points scored across the world in the 4 different SRO series. And it brings us now to the next task at hand for those manufacturers. It is the 4th race of the season. My name is Ryan Marine. Amanda Busick is in the pit lane. Calvin Fish alongside. We were racing yesterday, Cal. It started off dry like this, but it got pretty spicy by the end, thanks to Mother Nature.
It did. A sweep of the front row there for the 2 K-Pax entries, the Lamborghinis. But look at the jump that Michael Dinan gets aboard the Turner Motorsports BMW M6. Gets the jump, takes the lead into turn 1 and holds on to it as it goes 3-4 wide up the hill.
Not many have challenged that K-Pax racing car of Caldarelli and Pepper to this point in the season, but Michael Dinan and Turner Motorsport did just that. Here's an onboard shot from the CrowdStrike car. George Kurtz at the wheel. This was early in the race, and we know that because there's no moisture on the track, and it led to some great racing like this.
There really was a great little battle going on here for second place on the road in the Pro Class as well. Venturini finally makes this move. What a superb move it was. Elbows his way inside of Michael Dinan. Dinan's superb racecraft gives him a little bit of room.
That was the fight for second at the time. Then the rain came. Erin Vogel working her way around the outside of Fred Pordat in that Porsche he shares with Jan Halen. Great move from Erin.
It really was, but the conditions were deteriorating, and Brendan Arivi, who's having a tremendous run in the McLaren on debut, just gets it a little bit wrong, but really demonstrates just how treacherous these conditions were.
And you can see the rain starting to puddle. That became an issue a little bit later in the race. Look at these conditions on board with Colin Brown.
Just incredible. Just a lot of water on this racetrack. Visibility, big problems here. And the red flag came out to curtail the racing, and the checkered flag flew as well.
Just a little bit early. Nevertheless, we did get past 75% race distance. And that means full points were scored, but at the end of it, it was K-Pax Racing celebrating yet another win with Jordan Pepper and Andrea Caldarelli.
It really was, but they have a lot of work to do today because they roll off the grid 8th and 9th overall with tricky conditions in qualifying here yesterday with a damp but drying racetrack.
Definitely a surprise to see them struggling like they did in qualifying. For a fellow pro-class runner, Turner Motorsport, also struggling. Robbie Foley will start 10th. Advantage perhaps to Windward and Philip Ellis.
Yeah, they had a really good run here yesterday, start from the pole, and a big buffer with many Pro-Am cars between them and the fellow Pro cars in their class.
Plenty to keep an eye on. GIACOMO ALTOE, really impressive in qualifying. He'll start in the second spot. Jan Halen, Colin Brown making up row number 2. So many great stories, but best of all, beautiful sunshine. It's going to make for some really good racing here today at Circuit of the Americas. A look at the number 6 K-Pax Racing Lamborghini. Corey Lewis and Giovanni Venturini looked like they might have a shot at second place yesterday, but problems late in the race, Calvin, and that caused some issues for them. We'll get to that storyline in just a moment, but first, down to pit lane and the fellow member of our broadcast crew. Let's bring in Amanda Busick.
Well, gentlemen, I just want you to take a look at this sunshine that we have here as we kick off race 4 of the Fanatec GT World Challenge powered by AWS. As you can see that Mercedes behind us, this is the debut weekend on this car for Windward Racing. You finished second yesterday. You guys are at the top of the pole here. You will start the race in the number 1 position. K-Pax, the race winner, is behind you. How do you keep them there?
Yeah, you just got to drive really, really fast. So, I mean, they're a very accomplished team. They're very good everywhere they go. So it's just going to be up to us to, kind of match their speed. And hopefully we can pull a gap, and they'll struggle with some of the other Mercedes that are in front of them. I think that's going to be the key.
Well, Russell, with a brand new car, what are the learning curve there as you get up to speed?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just mental focus with these GT3 cars. They're incredibly fast, and they take quite a bit of mental capacity to drive. So, just seat time and practice and preparation is what gets you the speed.
Thank you, Russell.
Of course. Thank you.
Well, guys, as I said, it is a beautiful day here. You can see, you just know the anxiety that's in these drivers. There were different conditions yesterday as there are today. Drivers, start your engines.
That's a great sound to hear. The GT3 cars, 16 of them in all, fire to life. We think that Compass Racing will be able to make the grid here today. They had an issue yesterday, did not get to compete. That left us with just 15 competitors, but back to a full grid of 16. However, a long day ahead for the Carl Thompson, Jill Beck-led squad.
Yeah, it really is a shame because they had a very quick car. They're going to roll off the grid here in the 14th position with a lot of work to do, but no real track time yesterday. I'm not sure they would have learned much in terms of the conditions we encountered yesterday compared to a dry racetrack today. It's getting quite warm as well. Ambient temperature sneaking into the low 80s right now, which will relate to a very high track temperature as well. Here we see Colin Brown. They didn't have the best of days. Came into the championship standing second in the points heading into yesterday. Got a little bit wrong with their pit stop strategy. Ended up with a top 5 result.
And we'll start on the outside of the second row here in race 2 of the weekend today. We were talking a little bit about the K-Pax Racing story. There's 2 parts to it. One, the challenge that we saw for the Corey Lewis, Giovanni Venturini car that faded late, but also both cars further down the starting grid than either of us expected, and there might be a reason behind that.
Yeah, the 6 car had ABS issues in the wet yesterday, so they really dropped down the order, just hung on, finished 4th in class, but the real key was their qualifying position in a damp but drying racetrack, line up on the 4th and 5th row of the grid today.
I want to watch and see if they can make their progress up through the field. K-Pax unaccustomed to starting back in the position where they will take the green here this afternoon. First of 2 formation laps for this field behind the Lamborghini Urus safety car. Look at this Lamborghini right here, the white one from TR3 Racing, a team that is making their move up to the Lamborghini ranks after competing with Ferraris for so many years. And the shoe behind the wheel right now, GIACOMO ALTOE, we had a chance to meet him earlier this weekend for the first time. Super enthusiastic about racing in GT World Challenge America, and an extremely accomplished driver coming up through the Lamborghini ranks, primarily in Europe.
Yeah, really impressive young man, super friendly but super fast as well, just based on his previous results at this early stage of his career. Lamborghini factory pilot, drafted him with the TR3 squad. Doesn't know any of these circuits, so it's really just a baptism of fire, but he lines up on the outside of the front row, and I think really impressively he wants to showcase what he can do against the likes of Jordan Pepper, Andrea Caldarelli and Venturini in those K-Pax Lamborghinis as well. So there's a lot on the line here in terms of really making a statement here this afternoon.
Some other teams that are looking to make a statement. I think DXDT Racing as a whole, Calvin, looking to try and put yesterday behind them as quickly as possible. None of them had the results that they were looking for.
No, they weren't at the pointy end in terms of speed, and then the strategy just got away from them as well. So just a disappointing day, but they're a quality group. They've got a lot of great team personnel there. They'll rebound. They'll dust themselves off after yesterday. It's a new day. We've just got to focus forward.
I'm not sure anyone was more impressive yesterday than young Michael Diamond. Some of the moves he was making against drivers much more experienced than he. Just his 3rd GT3 start ever, going toe-to-toe with the likes of Giovanni Venturini.
Yeah, just really impressive. I mean, to have the basically the skill set to be able to take that lead up into turn 1 in tricky conditions and then have the confidence in the race car. I mean, he's coming off a tremendous GT4 season last year with multiple victories, but even so, to hold on to the lead overall and not be intimidated, just a wonderful performance will give him a lot of confidence moving forward. I think he and Robbie Foley may gradually start to work up towards finishing on the top step here very shortly in this season.
Another great story in this field is that brightly colored Lamborghini from SRO Motorsports. Jason Harward sharing with Madison Snow. They were intending to make their series debut at Sonoma. Circumstances conspired against them, but they've been quick. Madison Snow qualifying 6th.
Yeah, a really impressive performance by both of their drivers here yesterday. That brightly colored Lamborghini that you could see mid-pack. Look for them to make some moves today.
So many great storylines up and down this 16-car field, and we're about to watch it unfold over the course of 90 minutes of action here at Circuit of the Americas. 2nd of 2 formation laps underway, and we'll be headed to the green flag shortly. 2nd of 2 formation laps underway. Let's take a look at the starting grid for today's race. As mentioned on pole, impressive qualifying effort from Philip Ellis for Windward Racing. First weekend in that car, he'll start alongside TR3 Racing, GIACOMO ALTOE.
Yeah, on row 2, we have Wright Motorsports leading the Pro-Am standings. Jan Halen behind the wheel. He loves this circuit, very successful in previous seasons. And Colin Brown, as we talked about, DXDT trying to rebound here today.
Ryan Dial and Madison Snow share row number 3. Then row 4 belongs to Michael Cooper. He'll turn that Mercedes over to Aaron Vogel. And then the first of the K-Pax cars with Andrea Caldarelli.
Yeah, the championship leaders there, a lot of work to do from row 4. Jordan Pepper been very impressive, his teammate. Then you move back to row 5. It's the second of the K-Pax entries. Corey Lewis will see the green alongside Robbie Foley.
And we looked further down. Great to see the debut of Inception Racing, bringing the McLaren 720S GT3 to the field. Great run yesterday. Brendan Iribe as well as Ollie Milroy. You saw the rest of the grid flash up on the screen. Late developing stories from the pit lane. Now from Amanda.
Well, the DXDT Mercedes, the number 4 of George Kurtz and Colin Brown, finished in the 9th position yesterday. They kick off today in the 4th spot. What will your focus be here today, George?
Well, I think it's just about getting clean laps. Colin always does a great job, and you know, we had a potentially really good finish yesterday. We made the wrong call on the tires, and we had to come back in. But today's a new day. The sun's out, and just put our heads down and do what we normally do.
Good luck.
George Kurtz is going to be a busy guy. He's got a brief window to recoup after this, and then he's right back into the race car. He's taking part in the GT America powered by AWS series as well. using all that extra track time to his advantage and ready to put the stain of yesterday behind him, maybe out of the vein that we saw in the season opener at Sonoma.
Yeah, for sure. And just inside the top 10 overall, top 5, as we mentioned earlier, in their class in terms of the points. They didn't suffer too much, but it's all about today. It's all about focusing forward, and with the way the system works for race 2, it's the pro of the Pro-Am combinations that qualified here yesterday and will get the start here. Mandatory pit stop window between 40 and 50 minutes in. Minimum pit stop delta of 77 seconds, where we see some refueling going on. Driver change is mandatory, and most people elect to take cars as well.
How impressive was Inception Racing on its debut yesterday with that beautiful McLaren?
Oh, it's great to see the entry boosted, but the key is a quality entry. They had a lot of speed.
Field starting to come into alignment. The Lamborghini Urus safety car already accelerating. The field 2 by 2 through turn 19. Then it's the left-hand bend of turn 20. Waiting for the green flag. Front row, Philip Ellis of Windward Racing in the Mercedes. Giacomo ALTOE in the TR3 Lamborghini. Then it's Jan Hagelin, Colin Brown, Ryan Dial, and Madison Snow. Tom Hansing displays the green flag, and we are racing 90 minutes in Circuit of the Americas.
Look to the left side of the screen. Robbie FOLEY again with that Turner Motorsports BMW M6. Big launch there. Goes to the outside. Ellis hangs on to the lead. ALTOE tries to go with it. Hagelin putting the pressure on.
Shades of the aggressive start we saw from Michael Dinan yesterday. Robbie FOLEY trying to repeat that in the Turner BMW. Lost a little bit of momentum there. Great start from Philip Ellis. He made good his escape, and problems here for both ALTOE and Colin Brown bouncing over the curves.
Yeah, may have been a touch there with these Pirelli P0s not fully up to temp yet, so they go for a bit of a ride, trying to recover right now.
Madison Snow dropped back a couple of spots there at the start. It appeared from his 6th place qualifying position on board with Colin Brown. He's trailing the ALTOE-driven Lamborghini that qualified on the outside of the front row.
Up front, Philip Ellis. Look at Jan Hagelin, a mega start here. That Porsche has come to life early. ALTOE trying to defend there from Colin Brown. Deep into the brake zone for turn 5. Caldarelli deep to the inside as well.
A lot of battles up and down this field. Great opportunity to do it side by side further back with, it looks like, FOLEY on the attack as well. He's to the inside of Michael Cooper, it appears, as they head out of turn 11 for the first time at speed.
Battle for the lead. Ellis defends, middle of the racetrack. Jan Hagelin deep on the brakes down into turn 12.
Two extremely cagey drivers with a lot of experience. Hagelin maybe a little bit more. Takes a peek to the inside, makes the lunge side by side through the stadium section.
That is brave. You don't see many passes there. It's very tight through here, but Ellis should have the inside line for turn 15 as it really slows down. Hagelin tries to hang around the outside, can't make it stick.
And Hagelin in that Porsche for White Motorsports gave us the tour of the track, and the Porsche track preview again shows the nose to the inside. Even though they're battling for position like that, they've actually been able to pull the gap on 3rd place Ryan Dial.
Look at Caldarelli, our championship leader in that black Lamborghini mid-pack right there. He's not making any moves. His teammate is.
That's not where Andrea expected to be, and he sees the team car disappearing up the road. 3 wide here with Madison Snow stuck in the middle.
He doesn't know he's there, I don't think. I don't think Madison Snow knew that Caldarelli had made the move to the inside. He's more focused on Robbie FOLEY. FOLEY with that power now should be able to out-accelerate the Lamborghinis up the hill.
Side by side behind with VESKO KOZAROV and Drew Stavely. Here comes FOLEY. Sacrificed that quarter entry, got that run out. Now it's still 3 wide, and they're banging fenders at the exit of 1.
There was a touch there between the left rear fender and the right front of Andrea Caldarelli.
Oh, Madison Snow doesn't give a lot of room there to FOLEY, does he? But he's able to slot back in line. Andrea Caldarelli will have to settle in. That's going to be tough for him. He's not a patient guy. He wants to get to the front. As I said, pokes that nose to the inside, and FOLEY is under attack.
Yeah, FOLEY's car is really quick through sector 1, has the straightaway speed, and then sector 2 that we're into right now. Lamborghini comes back at him. Caldarelli thought about using more curb there, but that allows the other Lamborghini to get a run.
Had to check up. That's VESKO KOZAROV, I think, in the Reardon Racing Burton Lumber sponsored Lamborghini. Caldarelli immediately counterattacks to the inside.
Oh, there's a touch.
Yikes, that was close.
Just clips FOLEY there. FOLEY hangs on to it. Everyone trying to get through here cleanly. Ollie Milroy there in the McLaren. Side by side again for the lead. Ellis to the inside.
Philip Ellis trying to get it back from Jan Hagelin to the inside. He goes. Can he keep it inside the track limits? Yes, he can. Heylen not really ready to concede just yet. Still hanging to the outside. Now falls in line single file. And that has brought Ryan Diao into the mix as well.
We're talking about DXDT trying to rebound here from a bad day yesterday. Well, they're doing it right now. 2 cars in the top 5, led by Ryan Diao aboard the number 63 machine.
Decent recovery from ALTOE and BRAUN. We saw them bouncing over the curbs. They now run 4th and 5th.
Look at Caldarelli. He's gone all the way to the tail end of this little battle.
And this might go back to the story we were talking about at the beginning of the show. There might not be something quite right with the K-Pax Racing Lambos.
Yeah, texted with the team earlier this morning. They said we're very slow through Sector 1. We believe we've got a power issue. We can't really detect exactly what it is, but Caldarelli is very much on the back foot, our championship leader.
Tell you what, Corey Lewis doesn't look like he's struggling too much. He's at the tail end of this train, just behind this car that we're riding on board with. Colin Brown behind the wheel, but that green Lamborghini starting to loom large in the rearview mirror. And he's leading the charge for the K-Pax Racing team is Corey Lewis.
What a unique sight it is as you climb that hill, 130 foot of elevation up into turn 1, then you plunge back down the hill through these high-speed S's, about 135 miles an hour, then you slow it down a bit as it starts to tighten up. You can see the track limits here. You're going to try and use some of those curbs if the car's compliant with it. Just try and straight line it a little bit. But obviously the race directors are very much in tune with if you take a shortcut.
So fast, one turn flows into the next, and a lot of elevation change through that section as well. Puts a lot of strain on chassis and driver alike. Philip Ellis continues to control from the front, but Jan Heylen breathing down his neck. Takes a peek to the outside, now looking to make the undercut.
Tries to square off the corner a little bit. Try to get the power down. Those Porsches are so good. Power down, traction off. Ellis, proactive, tries to use the left-hand side of the road. Look at this. He can't move again. He's got to stay there. Only one move is allowed. That allows Heylen to the middle of the road. Oh, there's a touch. There's a touch. They're going to be looking at this. You can't move back over on your line.
Side by side into the braking zone, turn number 12, advantage. Ellis able to hold off Heylen once again, just behind ALTOE on the attack. He's working on the back bumper of Ryan Diao.
What a battle we're seeing here. That white Lamborghini has some pace as well, but he hasn't found a way through. Diao just hitting his marks perfectly. Carla Trev, good balance, but I think the two leaders are really slowing themselves up a little bit. I think if Ellis can just sort of like gap Heylen by 3 or 4 car lengths, then start to lay his times down, he may be able to create a bit of a gap.
Philip Ellis, the lone pro-class entry in the top 5. Then it's 4 Pro-Am entries from Heylen, Diao, ALTOE, and Brown. And we got an update from the pit lane. Amanda, what are you hearing?
Well, as you guys can see, Jordan Pepper is looking at this monitor. He was talking to his team engineer as we arrived and walked away shaking his head. What was the reaction for Jordan?
To be honest, I don't know what's going on there. A lot of the guys there in the midfield battle, they're racing like it's the last lap of the race on the first lap, which makes no sense to me. And it seems like they just totally disrespecting track limits, overtaking off the track, which is a bit painful. And for some reason, we're struggling in a straight line. So Andrea makes an amazing pass, and then we get to the long straight, and he gets passed by 5 guys. So we got to see what the issue is, but we still got, I think, an hour, 20 minutes to go, so it's early days still, so let's see.
And to Jordan's point, his co-driver Andrea Caldarelli, the two of them together have won every race so far this season, but Andrea languishing down in 12th place behind Matt McMurray from Compass Racing at the moment, and even visually it looked like that car might not be quite at full song.
Yeah, I agree with Jordan in some respects in terms of he's not sure what's going on with his race car, but I disagree in terms of they don't have to give him racing room. Everyone's going for it. I mean, if they use the track limits, the race director's going to call them on it. It's just how tough and fierce the competition is in the middle of the pack here.
Oh, how many times in GT3 racing have we seen the start is the time to make up positions? These cars are aero-dependent. We've had great racing for the first 8 minutes of this thing, but you really have to make hay while the sun is shining, and the best chance to do that is at the start when everyone's bunched up together.
Look at this battle continuing. Diao looks threatening, doesn't he? Car sits there, looks like it's got good balance.
I wouldn't sleep on ALTOE. He's pushing Ryan Diao up into this battle.
Yeah, he's being super patient right now. Settle down just a little bit. Not quite as frantic as we saw for a couple of laps there. This is what Ellis needs. I think he's got a very fast race car, as we mentioned. Amanda spoke to Russell Ward on debut here with his new chassis. Boy, they put it to work quickly.
Look at Ryan Diao stalking Jan Heylen. How much experience sitting in those 2 race cars.
Oh, just in time. but two fierce competitors. Jan Halen, one of the toughest opponents you're going to go up against. Even if Ryan has an edge in speed, he's not going to make it easy for him.
Yeah, that's true. Halen has a well-earned reputation of making a Porsche quite wide. He's going to put those skills to the test, being chased here by the Ryan Dial-driven DXDT racing car. And look at Colin Brown right there as well. 5 cars nose to tail, first through 5th, with Corey Lewis trying to run them down. 1:21 left on the clock. Philip Ellis and Windward Racing leading at Circuit of the Americas.
Today's coverage is brought to you in partnership with Fanatec, AWS, and CrowdStrike.
Well, Calvin, finally a chance to catch our collective breath. That was fraught to start this race. So much action up and down the field. Jan Halen may be backing off for just a moment to collect himself, pull those tires off a little to perhaps remount the challenge on the Mercedes of Philip Ellis. But those two are putting on a show at the front.
It was fantastic. Probably about the best 10 minutes of racing we've seen in several seasons. Just everyone going for it, deep in the pack as well as the leaders. So settle down a little bit, as you would expect. Now it's all about strategy, managing those tires a lot harder. We've got to see if anyone's got their pressures right, if everyone gets through that threshold where they start to lose grip.
Does appear to have been some issues for a couple of cars. The VESKO KOZAROV driven Bearded Racing car showed pit lane, as well as the Racers Edge Motorsports Acura with Jacob Abel behind the wheel. Hopefully we can get an update on what has happened to those two teams. Certainly a disappointment for both of them, but Jacob Abel in particular waiting for his chance to drive this car. He's sharing that seat throughout the season with Dakota Dickerson, and then they share the car collectively with Taylor Hagler. That's a look at the car in the pit lane at the moment.
Yeah, underneath the right rear corner there, attending to something. Not sure if it's a wheel speed sensor or a suspension issue, but hefty delay. They're not going to be in the big points here today. That's a shame. Taylor Hagler is sharing that car with Abel. This is a home circuit coming off a wonderful podium run at Sonoma. It's almost a couple of months ago now. It's a big break since that first round.
It has been. That's a team that has won championships each of the last 2 seasons. John Maraki, the team owner, though, did tell me we've got young drivers. They're graduates of the GT3 Academy that HPD put on last year, and we're helping to coach them up, but we have to recalibrate our expectations a little bit, especially compared to last year where we saw Shelby Blackstock and Trent Hidman really dominate this championship.
By coaching, they are literally doing that. They have Ryan Eversley, who's an HPD driver, working with them, as well as Ricky Taylor, leading a prototype championship this year to good effect. He's on site this weekend, given his expertise and experience and coaching these young drivers through their ropes.
I think we saw the Ellis car just get a little bit wide over the curbs and it kicked it sideways, and that has brought Jan Halen to his rear wing and a little bit of debris there at the top of that corner.
We see some argy-bargy down there, so there's some body work just laying around.
To keep an eye on that, here is the challenge for the lead. It is well and truly on once again. Philip Ellis defensive there on the left-hand side, and as we've seen time and time again, just a little bit stronger there under the brakes. Here comes Halen, dodging to the inside, weaving back to the outside, settling back in line, trying to put the pressure on Philip Ellis, battling for the overall lead in Circuit of the Americas.
Yeah, Jan Halen really fancies that inside line there.
And look at this battle for the lead here. Philip Ellis barely holding off Jan Halen. The pressure was very fierce here over the last couple of corners.
So Jan Halen certainly trying to keep Philip Ellis on his toes. He's trying it in places that you don't normally expect. That really throws you off your game a little bit. You've got to readjust your rhythm there. What you normally do coming off of turn 12, well, suddenly I can't just set up like I normally do. I've got to see if my car will work on this more compromised turn-in point.
Just a few moments ago, I think we saw Ellis get just a bit wide over one of those sausage curbs, and it kicked that car sideways visibly, and all of a sudden Halen was there ready to pounce. He needs no second invitation.
No, he certainly doesn't. He doesn't normally even ask for an invite, he just does it.
A bit of a party crasher on Halen. Hey, it was his birthday party yesterday. He turned 41, the native of Belgium, now lives lives in Clearwater, Florida, and has made a nice home for himself with this Wright Motorsports team. Plug and play in Heyland Porsche.
Leading the championship with Fred Portad, who came off an AMP championship run last year with young Max Root. Just a really solid team. Wright Motorsports always gives their drivers excellent equipment, very fast Porsches. Just great to see so many manufacturers. You talk about the global championship with 7 manufacturers involved. We have 8 as Jan Heylen down to the inside. Ellis tries to square it off. He'll tuck back to the inside. He should retake the lead.
That is great driving from Ellis. He saw what was happening. He knew that Heylen's line was going to be compromised because of the angle he took. Backed it right off and guaranteed he could get a nice jump off that corner to take the spot back. But here comes Heylen, barely on the racing surface. Ellis crowding him there to the inside.
Yeah, my concern with that, with running over there, yes, there's some asphalt, some track to work with, but the debris, is there any debris out there, any bodywork from previous races? Ellis now tries to make the move that Jan Helen's been doing. Look at this, Ryan Diel floats it around the outside. Ellis has got to watch out. He's got Mercedes threatening.
And don't forget Giacomo ALTOE hanging there as well, hanging tough. Mercedes side by side, but it's Porsche to the point. Jan Heylen leads.
Ryan Diel tried to elbow Ellis out there on the exit of turn 15, nearly opened up the door for ALTOE. Jan Heylen has got that Porsche to the front.
We're talking about one pro-class car in the Windward car. Philip Ellis behind the wheel. The others are Pro-Am, but the pros are in these cars. And this racing goes to show the level of talent in the pro part of the Pro-Am lineups.
It's hard racing, but it's just on the side of being fair. Do you know what I mean? It hasn't gotten ugly yet. Early days, though.
That's true. Still an hour and 14 minutes and change yet to go. One story to keep an eye on. We've been chronicling potential power issues for the number 3 car of Andrea Caldarelli, but the last time around, Andrea set the race's fastest lap, a 2:08.4. The leaders are running 2:08.6s. He just made his way around Ollie Milroy as well. That is for 10th overall. Still mired back 4th in class, but maybe they've been able to figure out what was ailing that Lamborghini and have been able to turn it loose.
Yeah, I've been looking at the trap speeds, and he's been within 2 or 3 kilometers an hour of the rest of the field, so he doesn't have a massive issue, but just seemed like he got out fumbled there. He was trying to be aggressive, trying to make some moves, and the were being thwarted. Suddenly everyone else was taking advantage of the situation, but that's what this racing is all about. And with this racetrack as well, it allows for those type of things to happen, because it is pretty much wide open in many places.
Next car for him to try and track down his 4-class position. It's Robbie FOLEY in the Turner BMW. You see it there at the tail end of that train. That's the chasing car, the black Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo, driven by Lamborghini ace Andrea Caldarelli. A bad one to turn it over to Jordan Pepper, who we heard from earlier. He starred in the wet yesterday.
He really did. Superb performance. Superb performance in qualifying as well here yesterday. Had a cut tyre, had to come in, put a new set of tyres on, got out very late, got the hammer down and nipped the pole on the very final lap and did it all in the 3rd sector on a rapidly drying racetrack.
This train is 7th, 8th, and 9th overall. 5th and 6th are Cooper in the Mercedes and Madison Snow in the Lamborghini. That's in the Pro-Am class. Then you have your 3rd place car in Pro right behind Robbie FOLEY. These 3 fighting for position, and as they do so, let's let Andrea Caldarelli start to reel them in a little bit now that he's gotten clear of Ollie Milroy in the McLaren.
Curious to see what sort of lap times he can put together now and how it compares with the leaders. And his teammate said, Jordan Pepper, a long way to go yet in this race. And we know with the K-Pax Racing team, with the talent they have on their pit box and the strategy, they'll try and perform some magic here in that pit stop window to make the right calls.
The pace shown in the wet from young Michael Dinan yesterday, and then Robin Foley as well. Had to be a shot in the arm for the Turner Motorsports team that left Sonoma a bit downtrodden, quite frankly. They just could not find the pace around that place.
They really couldn't, and they had some technical issues with the car as well, so they came away a little bit with their head hung low, but they certainly rebounded, got some testing under their belt, really trying to identify what this Pirelli P0 needs with that M6 chassis. The team does not have a lot of experience running with this tire, so they had to sort of like rethink it. They got a really excellent technical engineer and Jay O'Connor is working with them. He's got a lot of BMW experience, and Also, just more seat time for both of the drivers, and particularly for Michael Dine. And Robbie Foley's had a lot of success with this chassis in other championships over the last couple of years. But for Michael, it was a big step up. And coming off a season where he won 17 races last year, you'll have to change your psyche a little bit as well to kind of reset your goals and what your targets may be.
Race Vision powered by AWS. Overall top speeds, and as we've seen, round in and round out, it is that BMW awfully quick in a straight line.
It certainly is, but it's all about balance of performance on the lap time itself. So yes, the BMW has a little bit stronger top end, but it's all about the overall package in terms of the handling, the weight of the cars, and that's why the series does such a tremendous job to really equalize these 8 different manufacturers that we have in this show here today.
Some updates from the pit lane thanks to Amanda. It is a brake line that needed replacing for the Racer's Edge car. They also changed the electric tire, so there might have been some contact that led to that problem. Also saw some damage to the rear racing car. Maybe we can get an update on that from Amanda in the pits.
Well, guys, I'm standing by with Fred Pordat. He has been glued to these monitors watching Jan Halen extend that for about a half a second lead. Go back to the beginning of the race. How was that watching for you?
Well, watching is it's a little stressful, obviously. It's probably a little harder than being in the car sometimes. But Jan did a fantastic job. I think the car in front of him was blocking him for a few laps there, and we were fortunate to get by without an incident. And hopefully Jan can stretch the lead from here on.
Great to hear from Fred Pordat, defending AM champion in this series, stepping up to the Pro-Am ranks and watching his car out in front in the hands of the rapid Belgian Jan Halen. 20 minutes into this one, and it is Porsche leading the way here at COTA. I've been waiting for GIACOMO ALTOE to make a move at some point. He's been right there at the back of these Mercedes for several laps, and so far he seems content to run where he is. That is the third place car in Pro-Am. He'll be turning it over to Steve Gondor. His stint is up to get into the mandatory pit stop window.
And I think for us, much like the other drivers he's competing against, is a new face here in the US who identifying how does this guy race? He's 20 years old. Is he just a go-for-it type merchant, or is he one who sits back and plays the game, plays the long game, and is patient? And right now, he's got a fast race car, but he's not going to throw it all away here today.
Started off did GIACOMO Racing Touring Cars, finished second in the TCR Europe Trophy back in 2017. Then got into Lamborghini Super Trofeo, and that is where his career started to take off. Won championships at the European level, won the World Final as well, got drafted in as a junior driver for Lamborghini, excelled in that role. Just 1 year later, going back to last year, he gets promoted to a full-on factory driver. He's taken every opportunity presented to him and seized it.
He has, and he comes from a racing background. His dad used to be a rally driver who's part of the racing. Now we see this battle. This is for class position. Robbie Foley trying to hang on to that position. Andrea Caldarelli in that Lamborghini, the championship leader, makes the move safely through 19. Here we go. He's a man on a mission right now. He's finding a rhythm. Foley tries to come back out and takes the peak to the inside. Andrea just rolls speed through the apex and clears in, but he knows that BMW, if it was a little bit tighter, could have come back at him here, but it's a long road ahead for Robbie Foley. I think he's too far back this time.
Yeah, so that is third place in Pro, swapping hands there. Move Caldarelli and K-Pax up into that third spot. 9th overall, Robbie Foley now back to 10th overall, 4th in the class. Ollie Milroy lurking in the background in the McLaren. It does seem like, for whatever reason, that the dry conditions haven't brought the best out of the BMW. It was so strong in the wet yesterday.
Yeah, it was, and they really felt that this circuit should really match them a lot better than Sonoma did. I mean, it's a long wheelbase car, the M6, which means it's going to have really good stability through these high-speed S's. It's got the speed as well, so Sector 1 is really a strong suit. Sector 3, where it tightens up again through those really tight, twisty stuff, like 12 through 15, is a real concern for them. That's where the Lamborghinis and the others come back at them.
And Brendan Reeve here will be taking over this car, driven right now by Ollie Milroy. They were so impressive in their series debut, North American debut as a team, coming home with a Pro-Am class win in the wet yesterday. Right now, some work to do as they're mired back a little bit in the 11th position overall. an hour and 7 minutes to play here in the second race of the weekend at Circuit of the Americas. Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Best battle on the track right now might be this one. GIACOMO ALTOE putting the pressure on the veteran Brian Dial. Should mention as well, again, there was that swap in position. Andrea Caldarelli around Robbie Foley for 9th overall, but crucially 3rd in the pro class. It does seem like that K-Pax Lamborghini might be back to something close to full strength, given the lap times he's been running as of late. Last lap being an exception, because he was running in traffic trying to make that pass.
Yeah, still a long road ahead for them. They're certainly starting to make some progress and show to us some lap time, which is important to make any moves. But this is a great little battle, and we talked about in the break the fact that GIACOMO ALTOE is, we don't really know him that well. 20 years old, comes from a racing family. His family operates a racing circuit in Italy, lives near Venice. Loves the fact he's having this opportunity to be here in America, just to experience a different culture, different way of going racing. Oh, and he a little sideways there, had a big twitch, went over the curb, but actually shortcut the circuit a little bit and actually made him closer to Dial by the end of it, but he's really hanging on. So maybe his tires are starting to overheat a little bit. Much warmer day than we've experienced all week long.
Keep in mind, too, the torrential rain we've had over the last few days has probably wiped this racing surface clean. I suspect it's a relatively green racetrack they're working with.
It really is. There he takes a little nose to the inside, not close enough, and Dial could really sense that he wasn't close enough. Dial, so much experience. Big year for Ryan Dial. Has already had a victory at the Rolex 24-hour race. He's got a big prototype campaign going on in Europe and here in North America, as well as leading the charge with David Askew.
He's on the defensive, here, having to cover that inside line. ALTOE going to take a peek around the outside. The Lamborghini factory driver taking on the sports car racing vet, Brian Dial, who forces him out just that little bit wide. Still side by side, though. Crucially, ALTOE was able to maintain that position relative to Dial. Now Dial trying to cross him over.
He is, and does he try and do the extra cut back here in 15? He's not really in position to do it, so I think the Lamborghini will hang on now as they get towards that triple apex right-hander. Nice move there, showed a lot of patience and poise there and just waiting, and just as it looked like his handling was giving up, well, he pounced.
I think that pass was 26 minutes in the making. GIACOMO's been working the back of Dial over the course of the last, since the green flag flew, quite frankly, and finally found a spot to make it happen. But that's what it takes. I mean, you can spend that long sizing up your opponent, trying to find the weakness, trying to plot your move, and you might only get the one chance at it. You got to take advantage when it arrives.
Sometimes you're patient, and suddenly before you know it, your car's balance has gone away a little bit, and the guy you're fighting with suddenly has a bit more speed. So it's a real conundrum in terms of how hard you push when you do it. But certainly it's been a fantastic battle to observe.
Updating the charge from Andrea Caldarelli, now up another spot in the overall running to 8th overall. Just got past Madison Snow. That is not a class position, but 8th and 9th overall swapping hands. And Caldarelli now trying to chase down Michael Cooper, and he's done so. We can see it right there on the screen. Now Michael is going to have his mirrors full of the Lamborghini factory driver.
Making the move up from GT4 competition last year. Michael Cooper, our sprint champion, but he's had GT3 experience before with the Cadillac team. 4-time World Challenge champion. He's not going to be an easy picking here for Andrea Caldarelli, but it's all about balance right now. Andrea, they're trying to get on the power early. Just lost the rear end momentarily and loses a car length or two.
Michael also ran some races in the previous generation Mercedes pre-Evo for the CRP racing team a couple of years back. And so has some experience with this platform. Like you said, he's going to be under an extreme amount of pressure from a rejuvenated Andrea Caldarelli, who seems to have a ton of pace all of a sudden.
Yeah, he does. The car's really found his sweet spot. So he's starting to put the moves on, dives to the inside. Nothing Michael Cooper can do about that. That should be easy for him.
Caldarelli gets it done. Put him up one more spot now. 7th overall. The charge continues from Andrea Caldarelli, the winner of the first 3 races of the season and the championship points leader, along with his co-driver.
Today's coverage is brought to you in partnership with Pirelli, Rebellion, and Total.
Andrea Caldarelli continuing the charge. Whatever their issue was earlier in the race, I'd be curious to hear how they were able to resolve that issue. Interesting here. Looks like Jan Halen has built up a bit of breathing room over Philip Ellis ever since taking over. Giacomo ALTOE, since getting past Ryan Dial, hasn't made too much inroads on these two. But the interesting thing about the format for race 2 of the weekend, Calvin, is especially with these Pro-Am cars, the Windward car is not Pro-Am, but the others in this picture here towards the front are. The complexion changes completely in about 10 minutes or so. The pit lane window opens and they turn these cars over to the second driver in the Pro-Am lineups.
Yeah, absolutely. Then that's really where is the strength amongst those second drivers and who may get the victory because of that. So track position is so important, so I think that's what Jan Halen is doing. And we've seen in the past with Fred Pordad, his teammate, doesn't have the experience or the overall speed of some of the others, but boy oh boy, he will not be intimidated. He's going to try and hang on as long as he can.
In on the end of a frantic opening 30 minutes of this race. His first 10 minutes is about as good of a GT3 show as I have ever seen, with the top 4, 5, 6 cars all running in the same camera shot, swapping positions side by side. Clean but hard racing from some very savvy professional drivers.
Talk about teammates running on the same squad, not necessarily in the same car. You got two here, two really experienced, very fast drivers here, with Colin Brown trying to chase after his teammate Ryan Dial, who has that track position right now. Third and fourth in class, fourth and fifth on the road.
George Kurtz chomping at the bit to get in that CrowdStrike Mercedes. He's really been on his game over the last couple of seasons, and he's won. Get to the AMs and the Pro-Am lineups, and I think it's a really good chance to move his way forward.
And I think the key here is for this number 6 entry, when Venturini gets behind the wheel, Lamborghini factory pilot, another pro driver, he'll be going up against a bunch of AMs, so for overall he should really be able to make some hay here and cut through the field a little bit, you would imagine.
Of the K-Pax Racing driver lineup, Corey Lewis is the only one that had previous track experience here in in anything, actually, and actually had been here for several days prior to this weekend coaching some Lamborghini Super Trofeo drivers, so he's got some recent track knowledge even before this weekend. The reigning Pro-Am champion in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America for Change Racing. Corey Lewis currently running in the 6th position with just under 1 hour remaining at Circuit of the Americas. Watching Giacomo ALTOE at work. He's cleared Ryan Dial. It built a gap of 1.2 seconds over the chasing Mercedes. I was curious to see if he would be able to run down either Halen or Ellis, and early returns, it's hard to say. Their last lap times have been personal bests, but not a whole lot between them.
Yeah, no, but certainly half a second quicker, Ellis and ALTOE, than Halen on that lap, so we'll wait and see what happens.
As we watch Giacomo ALTOE drive, his co-driver Ziad Condor getting ready to jump behind the wheel of that car, and Amanda is with him.
You can feel the pressure building here in pit lane. We talked prior to the race, and you talked about the consistency that your team is going to need. As you zone in for this change, what will be your strength?
Keep at least a small percentage of what these guys are doing. I mean, they're doing an unbelievable job. Giacomo is so fast. He's got a natural speed, and he's one of the fastest drivers I've ever been with. So, you know, it's an unbelievable to watch. It makes us all a bit nervous to get in the cars and try to emulate them, but that's why we're in the hands of the pros.
He's right, and I think we all sit in awe of some of the driving talent in these Pro-Am lineups. And you know, when you are the AM in the lineup, that's what you've got to judge yourself off of. That's the data you get to look at. It's so instructive as you try and hone your own craft.
Yeah, and I think when you're in with a front-running position, whether it's for the lead or for a podium, top 5, whatever the threshold may be, that pressure builds. So just sitting here waiting for your chance to get behind the wheel, he recognizes I've got to go out there and try and hold on to this track position that's been established by my team, all of the hard work this weekend, and my co-driver. It's intimidating, but as they get more and more mileage, as they get more and more races under their belts, these amateur drivers get more comfortable with that zone, and that becomes more comfortable to them, and they can make better performance.
To my eye, at least, Philip Ellis is starting to close in just that little bit on Jan Halen there. Last lap, I think he took just over 1/10 of a second out of Halen's advantage. This might not be over yet, although we probably won't see those cars on pit lane too early in the window, I suspect.
No, I think we're going to see these guys certainly stretch it towards the back end of that pit stop window, so they've got to be in pit lane with at least more than 40 minutes on the board in terms of the timeline there. So means that they've got to hang on to these tires a little bit longer, so those tire pressures have to be set for a slightly longer run, looking at nearly a 50-minute run with the pros here, 40 minutes for the AMs. And that could be a key factor here, that Ellis's Mercedes may have a little bit better balance later into the run here, long green flag run. And maybe come back at Jan Halen, and if not grab the lead, certainly be right with him when they hit pit lane.
Close up the story on a couple of teams that hit strife in the early running. Racer's Edge has their car back out on track after the brake line repair. Jacob Abel is driving, but 9 laps down. Unfortunately, not so lucky for the Reardon Racing team. VESKO KOZAROV still shown as in the pit lane. Some bodywork damage to that car. Not quite sure where that came from, but evidently it's too much to recover from.
Might have been when he and Robbie Foley got together through 11, I think, on the opening lap, was it? Or maybe the second lap?
Yeah, you know what? That does jump to mind. I think you might be onto something.
Ellis in the shadows of our leader right now, closing in on him. Look at him roll that speed through turn 1. Car is really balanced. Winwood Racing really have doing a tremendous job here with the Mercedes AMG platform. Big global footprint that they have in racing right now, running in the legendary DTM Championship for 2021 with 2 of these Mercedes. They'll be running in the Endurance Championship. They've already had 1 round under their belt with Russell Ward and others, including Philip Ellis behind the wheel. Big program.
Absolutely massive as we watch Michael Cooper try and hold off Madison Snow. The update that I got on the Reardon car did say that the damage came from hitting a curb too hard, and there are several around this track that can do some damage to a race car, and evidently that car has been taken back to the paddock. Saw Madison Snow clip a curb, and it kicked the front end of that car up in the air. Should be said that Cooper is in the leading Mercedes of this duo. Now Madison Snow is in the Zalus Racing, very colorful Lamborghini. They will be taking delivery of the Lamborghini chassis that currently runs 3rd overall. TR3 Racing will be getting a new one ahead of VIR. And so that means a 2nd chassis for this smaller team out of Utah, Zalus, that at the moment is using this chassis for both GT World Challenge America as well as GT America competition, with Jason Harward driving. He'll be taking over for Madison Snow during the pit stop.
Yeah, really cool little team. Great to see Madison on board with this program. He knows this Lamborghini Huracan so well. Won a North American Championship here back in 2018. Won the Rolex 24-hour race last year with a similar car, so he knows it well. Great to lead this team, give them the direction. He says a lot more responsibility for me in terms of being the engineer on this car as well as the driver, which he said I like. He said I'm not used to it. I'm used to have my more established teammate play that role.
It's been a nice smooth run for them here in their opening weekend of GT World Challenge America competition. Madison Snow trying to pick up 1 more spot. Had a great effort in qualifying to put that car P6 on the grid. Right now he runs P6 in Pro-Am and 9th overall. Closing in on that pit stop window here, Calvin. How do you see this strategy playing out? The Pro-Am cars with the pros in, they'll probably run as long as possible. But what can a team like Windward or K-Pax do to try and use this pit window and their all-pro lineups to their advantage?
Yeah, it's going to be, you know, essentially, unless you get the undercut, unless there's a big advantage, safe to get Jordan Pepper behind the wheel on some fresh Pirelli P0s and really lay the hammer down and cut into the times of the people up ahead. I think that's their only play, because you anticipate a lot of these Pro-Am combinations keeping their pro in who started this race as long as possible, maximize the speed that they have in their race car. So it makes it a little bit trickier for Thomas Blam and the strategist there at K-Pax.
do you think that option's open for Windward? I know we had a great chat with Russell Ward earlier this weekend, asking him, did you guys expect to be here in the pro class? Typically, they've been a Pro-Am lineup. Russell kind of late to his racing career, but certainly honing that craft, and he said, I make no bones about it. I think I should be a pro. I think what I've accomplished to this point in my career establishes me as that. That's where I want to be. Now, does the team have that opportunity to turn it over to him when he thought that his pace could match close to what Philip Ellis can do, and maybe they can use that to their advantage with an undercut?
It's a possibility. They'll know based on what lap times they're seeing. We're not seeing anything like the high fives, low sixes that we saw in practice earlier this weekend. Right now, the fast lap of the race is still called early at mid-8. So that would be really the key there. Do they believe that by getting Russell Ward out there on those fresh Pirellis, would he have the speed to really maximize that and really get that track position by the time Jan Halen hits pit lane?
These two might be holding each other up just that little bit because Giacomo ALTOE starting to loom large in the background. The last few laps he's been a tenth or two quicker. That was true again this time, and the gap is down to 1.2 seconds, and you can see he has left Ryan Dial behind, much closer to this leading pairing now.
He looks pretty good, but I'm not sure if he's going to have enough to really get to them by the pit stop window. There could be 10 more minutes of running before he has to come in.
Getting very close to seeing that strategy start to unfold with the opening of the pit stop window. Jan Halen leading Philip Ellis. Giacomo ALTOE, though, closing in. Just a matter of seconds now until we start seeing pit stops here at Circuit of the Americas. Jan Halen leads at the moment over Philip Ellis. Giacomo ALTOE runs third overall. The leader in the pro class is Ellis. Halen leads in Pro-Am. Then it's Dial and Brown. Both of them are Pro-Am runners. Corey Lewis and his sister car from K-Pax Racing, driven by Andrea Caldarelli, hold the 6th and 7th overall positions. They run 2nd and 3rd in Pro.
Pit stop window should open by the time these leaders get to pit lane, so they could have the option of coming in, but I don't anticipate at least any of these lead cars coming in initially. They're going to try and want to maximize the seat time for their pros, lay those laps down. What does the second K-Pax entry do? Does Caldarelli elect to pit early, get Jordan Pepper behind the wheel with some fresh Pirelli P0s, do the undercut as we call it, and try and gain some track position by the time everyone rolls out of pit lane?
Yesterday, rain started to come right as the pit window opened up, and we saw K-Pax split their strategies. They kept one car out an extra lap. One car came in early. It actually caught out the car that came in early because I don't think the team was quite sure if they wanted to go slicks or wets just yet.
I think you could see Lewis come. I really do, because Venturini is really quick. And have to wait and see. Just a lot depends. Even that 10-minute delta between, you know, how long you run the cars. Maybe with the tire degradation here he comes. I think that was a good call there. It's going to be a long stint for Venturini, but he's going to get those tires on early. And the key is going to be his out laps, getting the power down, getting some tire temperature. Remember, you have tire blankets, a relatively warm day, so I would think within a lap he should have the tires back where he needs them, be able to lay the pace.
An introduction of tire warmers to the championship a few years ago, that changed a lot of the strategy calculations because, like you said, those tires are pretty much ready to go right from the word go.
Well, that's the key with doing an undercut. You can't afford to go out there, and it takes 3 laps to get the tires up to temp and pressure. So really the key is getting these tires out of the blanks. I spoke to the engineers here at K-Pax this weekend, and typically they try and set them about 25 degrees below the optimum racing temperature. So if that's, say, 190, they'd have these tires set at about 165, 170 degrees in their ovens. The fronts, they actually run about 10 degrees warmer to try and get the fronts working. It's the fronts you struggle to get up to temp and get the balance and get the grip, so they actually offset the temperatures front to rear as well.
No waiting around when it comes to Giacomo ALTOE. He is on the attack here, trying to get past Philip Ellis before his stint is
over. Gap at the front.
Yeah. I wonder if they went side by side, and that cost them both some time.
They were only 8/10 apart on the previous time across the stripe. And Halen probably has 2 seconds right now.
Keep an eye out, too, on how this shakes out for Giovanni Venturini. Car driven and started by Corey Lewis. First pit callers here of the afternoon. In race 2 of the weekend at Circuit of the Americas. These cars running Pro-Am lineups, as Calvin has talked about. We do expect them to be staying up towards the front, or staying out on track, I should say, as long as they can to maximize the drive time there. I think DL's been able to close it a little bit, while these two presumably have been fighting amongst themselves.
Pit window is open, as you can see. Looking at the clock, when the clock hits 40, you have to be in pit lane. Not completed the service, but on a winds down with 40 minutes to go, you have to cross the stripe and be in pit lane at least. Otherwise, you will get a penalty. Pit stop Delta for these cars, 77 seconds, as Caldarelli now hits pit lane as well.
Andrea Caldarelli to the pit lane. Amanda Busick standing there behind the pit wall. She'll have a great view as the winner of the first 3 races of the season so far makes its way down pit lane.
Yeah, we can see that number 3 Lamborghini making our way here to the K-Pax pit stop. I talked to Jordan Pepper before he put on his helmet. He said, I got to give it all I've got. Well, guys, you might remember he has had pressure here at COTA this weekend in the qualifying session from a tire puncture. He waited to the last lap to put this number 3 Lamborghini on the pole position. But you see that driver change happening right here. 4 new Pirelli slicks will go on this Lamborghini, as well as refueling for a minimum of 77 seconds here in pit lane.
77 seconds from pit in to pit out, including the service. So we keep a close eye here on the ballet, the choreographed ballet that is a live pit stop. Refuel, driver change, tire change.
This is going to be the key lap right now. On his out lap now, crosses the stripe. This first lap will really be a key indicator of what he can do. Fastest lap so far is an 8.4 by his teammate, Caldarelli. You can see he had the track position before, and now his tires are up to temperature. He'll be much more into a rhythm than Jordan Pepper is, even though Jordan Pepper, we know, gets up to speed very rapidly.
Looks like it should work nicely into their favor. We also saw Turner Motorsport bringing their BMW into the pits. That means Robbie Foley turning it over to Michael Dinan to do it at the midway point of the pit window. I think is a show of faith in what Michael can do behind the wheel.
Yeah, a lot of confidence gained by Michael Dinan yesterday and his team in terms of his ability in one of these GT3 cars. You see Jan Halen using all of the road and a bit more. That is allowable. You're allowed all the way out past the green through 19, all the way up to that white stripe. One tire has to be touching it, otherwise you'll be observed and ultimately get a penalty.
And it should be noted that all you have to do is be in the pit lane when the pit window closes. It's not like your service needs to be done. You don't have to be back out on the track. So we do have a couple more laps to play with here for these Pro-Am teams, and are going to maximize, as we've said several times, the drive time of the pros in their lineups.
Yeah, I think they can do 2 more and be safe here. So don't anticipate anyone coming in this lap. They may split it to try and get a bit more open pit lane, but other than that, I think they're going to maximize 2 more laps. This lap plus 1 more before hitting the pits.
Got a lot of eyes on the Windward team. I think this could be the best chance we've seen all year for someone from the pro ranks to do something about the dominance we've seen out of K-Pax Racing. It all started with the qualifying effort from Philip Ellis. He's been great. Dropped back to 2nd overall, but still leads in class and has a bit of a margin. But that can go away quickly if you run afoul of the minimum pit stop delta or have some kind of a miscue, either refueling or with a tire change.
Compass Racing making their first pit stop of the weekend. Didn't see any action yesterday with that engine issue after qualifying. Matt McMurray did the opening stint. Rodrigo Salas now behind the wheel.
An eye on these guys. This is through 13, 14, 15. So still a little ways to go before we'll know if they're going to commit to the pit lane here this time. And this is not let up at all, has it? Giacomo ALTOE will not let Philip Ellis get away. If there's ever a chance, you know he's going to pounce.
Ellis there just misses the apex a little bit, so he's starting to slip and slide a little bit towards the very end of this stint, but just really a testimony of these Pirelli P0s hanging on and having a good balance here as we look at the lap times coming up on board. And Halen through 19. Going to try and squeeze every ounce of energy out of these tires on this in-lap. Could be so critical.
This will be the one last flyer before they come to pit lane. Last opportunity before that pit window closes, and they are maximizing every bit of drive time for ALTOE and Jan Halen.
Nearly 50 minutes in, these Pirelli P0s have only lost about a second in terms of lap time performance compared to the problems here after the pit stop. Is there a loose wheel possibly? 77 Compass machine just came out of the pits.
That car did have an issue with the loose wheel at Sonoma.
Yeah, you can see it there. It's half in, half out of the wheel well.
I think I remember a conversation with Carl Thompson, the team principal, along with his wife Jill Beck, that there goes the wheel. It has fully dislodged. There is something a little different with the pit equipment that they use here versus in other series, and that was something they were trying to get adjusted to. We've seen 2 miscues like that through 4 races this season.
Michael Cooper, nice opening stanza there, turns it over to Erin Vogel. She had a tremendous run at Sonoma in round 2, battling with Taylor Hagler for that final podium position. Just came up a little bit shy, but she enjoyed that one.
Cooper had been able to keep Madison Snow behind him. Snow in the pit lane. Brendan Uribe in the pit lane in the Inception Racing by Optimum McLaren. Conrad Grunwald also in the pits. It's the AF Corsa run. Ferrari, the lone AM class entry in the field here this weekend.
All of these leaders have to pit now. There's not enough time on the board to complete another lap. So unless there's a miscommunication radio issue, all of these leaders will be hitting pit lane.
Race leader is Jan Halen, expecting him and the rest of the front runners into the pits.
Jordan Pepper's opening lap at 208.8, almost a second quicker than Venturini, as an extra lap of tire temp in his Pirelli P0s. Look at Jan Halen, all of the road on the exit at 19 before diving for pit lane. Looking for every 10th of a second.
Yeah, maximizing that pit entry. If you can gain that advantage there and get rode up and on the pit limiter before you get in the pit lane, yep, that is a huge advantage there. Wright Motorsports, that crew getting ready to service Jan Halen's car. He'll be turning it over to Fred Pordad, and Amanda Busick is there.
We can see the 45 making our way right to us right now, and Jan was able to create almost a 1.5 second lead over Ellis on his turn. I saw Fred Pordad before he was about to get in the car, guys. He talked about the anxiety that he had watching that battle at the beginning of the race, but he was rather stoic here. He was calm, not moving, focused in on the effort ahead to keep this team right in the #1 position.
I can imagine the nerves. He's been watching his car run out in the overall lead, and if his crew does the right job, well, that's exactly where he's going to exit the pits, and there is a certain amount of pressure associated with that. This is a good sign. The car's sitting here. They know how long it's going to take them to get to pit out. They time the release, hopefully perfectly. That looked awfully close, though.
The Winwood car was a little bit closer, so who's cutting the margins too fine there? This is a change of position, I believe. The 04 jumping out ahead of the TR3 Lamborghini, so that's a change in pit lane.
And something wrong with one of the DXDT Mercedes. Aaron Vogel at the wheel just took over. We saw that driver change on the last lap from Michael Cooper, and that one appears dead stick in the pits.
Pepper's last lap at 208.46, slightly slower than his teammate laid down early in the race, but Venturini stuck in the 9, so there you can see it now. There's Venturini going through on those hot tires.
That's the difference, in part leaving the pit lane, but in part the hot tires versus those just out of the tire ovens. Yes, they're warm, but they're not at peak operating temperature. And now this battle is on. The overall lead, Fred Pordad has it. Here comes young Russell Ward. He wants every bit of this. A class winner at the 24 Hours of Daytona earlier this year. Flashing those headlights, doing anything he can to get into the head of Fred Pordad.
Yeah, we've seen Fred before come under pressure with some seasoned veterans putting the pressure on for a battle on the racetrack, and he doesn't give an inch. He, as Amanda alluded to, he seemed pretty stoic on pit lane before his stint behind the wheel. Let's see what happens now. Now it's for real.
What a tandem he and Max Root turned into last year. They won the M-Class championship, but frequently were mixing it up with pros and Pro-Am lineups. And so no surprise to see Fred stepping seamlessly into a similar situation here, but Russell Ward seems to have a bead drawn on that Porsche.
He does, but I tell you what, if Fred can get into a bit of a rhythm here and keep him behind for a couple of laps, that's going to be the key. Russell Ward putting the pressure on. Fred gives it to him.
And quite frankly, that's the smart move by Fred. As much as he'd love to win overall, that is not for class position, as we see Pordad with now still holding the lead in Pro-Am, and the
Full
Pro
course
leader,
yellow.
Ward, has made his way through. We do have a full course yellow on the track, and so that breaks off this battle for here, and it's going to condense that field as well. Everyone coming up closer together, and I wonder what might have caused this full course yellow.
Well, I think they're waiting for everyone to do their pit stop, possibly to go out and just get the track safe after the couple incidents we had out there. There's the wheel.
Yes, I think you're exactly right, because a full course yellow in the middle of that pit window can definitely disadvantage someone, and that wheel sitting there should not be an issue, at least we think. So good work by the stewards to try and make sure nobody was caught out by that full course yellow, and we get to restack the deck. A restart coming at Circuit of the Americas once the track is cleared. Well, this is about to get spicy.
Oh boy, Jordan Pepper, K-Pax Racing just got a big reprieve here. They're back in the game.
And I know Giovanni Venturini, Corey Lewis and company, everyone on that number 6 car, they're tired of seeing the sister car win. Yeah, it's good. You want to support your teammates, your team car. It's good for K-Pax and Lamborghini, but after a while, you want to share the spoils, right?
You do. Yeah, that's all about making a statement. And so far in this race, Venturini hasn't really shown the pace that the 3 cars had, so I expected him with the undercut and getting those tires on early to really get the hammer down and try and take advantage, but it didn't seem like the pace was there. So, you know, Jordan's going to be up on the wheel, lots to play for overall and in class positions. And it's not impossible for those 2 Lamborghinis to get around Portad, get around Askew, and maybe get to Russell Ward for the Pro Class lead.
Assuming timing and scoring is cycled through, it looks like in that pit sequence, the big loser was the TR3 Racing team, because Giacomo ALTOE came in challenging for the overall podium, but now has turned it over to Ziad Gondor, and that car is listed back in the 7th position, 4th in Pro-Am.
Yes.
That's allowed the 2 K-Pax cars through, and that might just be the strategy there, but then also George Kurtz is through in the car that he shares with Colin Brown. Wonder what the cause of that might have been.
I think it might have been the outlap as well, so I think they were a little bit slow. I believe they lost 1 position on pit lane to the 63, and probably on the outlap, I would imagine that Kurtz maybe got up to speed a little bit quicker than Gandor.
I think it's going to be fascinating to watch the 2 K-Pax cars try and charge to get to Russell Ward. If there's a team that did not want to see this safety car, I have to believe it was Windward.
Yeah, for sure. Been a really solid weekend so far. Solid day, but a little bit more pressure on that young man up front.
And if you're the AMs in the Pro-Am lineups, you've got a couple hungry Chargers out of the Lamborghini stable right behind you. How do you handle this?
Well, you got to focus on the big picture, of course, but the races at heart, see how they deal with it.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating once we get this restarted. It shouldn't be too long. That one stray wheel brought out the full course yellow, and pretty soon we'll be turning the field loose once again at COTA. Clock ticks down, under 34 minutes remaining. Your running order: Russell Ward over Fred Portad. David Askew runs 3rd overall, but 2nd in Pro-Am, and this is the reason we're behind the safety car.
Yeah, after a pit stop here with the Compass Racing Acura, right front comes loose. There you see it disappear, and ultimately ended up on the side of the racetrack, off the racing line, but that is waited for the full course yellow. They got the pit stops out of the way. Pit stop window was closed. Didn't affect the strategy for anyone, and then they made the right call and just turns it, making this racetrack clean. But it's really altered the gaps and the cushions that some of these drivers had built during the course of this race, and has really brought the K-Pax Racing entries currently sitting there 4th and 5th on the road. You see the bright green Huracan of Venturini with his teammate Jordan Pepper right behind him, the championship leader. They are back in the mix for potentially gaining another win here today.
Isn't that something? We started the show talking about their struggles in qualifying. Was there something maybe mechanically amiss with the cars? It looked at the first half of the opening stint that Andrea Caldarelli had something wrong with the car. He just plummeted down the running order, and now, all of a sudden, whatever the issue was seems to be resolved. They've come back through the field. He's behind his teammate running 4th and 5th overall. And to the fear of everybody else on this grid, it looks like Apex is going to have a shot at it again, just when everyone thought maybe this is the weekend that someone could steal it away.
Yeah, you just never give up. That's really the target, right? I mean, even if you're on the back foot like Caldarelli was, I think the car might not be at its sharpest in terms of ultimate performance. They're losing something out there in terms of maybe acceleration and straight line speed. And he just got in the thick of the battle there, and as he was trying to make moves, couldn't complete them. Suddenly he was being taken advantage of and found himself deeper and deeper in the pack. Then he found a rhythm, found some lap time, found the sweet spot. But I don't think his teammate's going to make it easy unless there's a team call over the radio.
Well, if there is something wrong with that car, that's a scary proposition because it has set the fastest lap of the race. A 2:08.4, the CrowdStrike fastest lap, belongs to Andrea Caldarelli. Jordan Pepper driving that car now. Interesting, though, that it's not that much quicker than what we've seen out of some of the front-running cars. About a tenth off of what Philip Ellis did in the Windward car. About 2/10 off of what Jan Heylen did in the Wright Motorsports car. So there are other entries running about that approximate pace. Now, that's one lap pace. Let's see what they can do over the course of a full tire run here. Although that full tire run has been condensed just a little bit. I think, though, we might be able to get an answer on what might have been plaguing that car with Amanda.
Well, guys, I think you also might be surprised a little bit with the answer. And we talked in the booth that the competitors will not like that you guys are behind them now. But what happened earlier in that run for you?
Yeah, I mean, the first lap was very, very intense, especially the first 4 corners. I got hit by 3 or 4 cars, so I dropped a little bit. And then in the hairpin, I got hit again, and so I lost a bit of time. But then I had good fun to recover a few overtakes, and definitely now the safety car will help us a little bit of a good last 30 minutes of the race.
Thank you, Andre. And guys, remember, it's still his first race here at the Circuit of the Americas. No mechanical issue there, just overwhelmed by the cars.
Well, that's good to hear, and he definitely has a weapon to fight with still. Lamborghini Urus has started to accelerate away, and we'll see what kind of weapon he's left for Jordan Pepper. 30 minutes on the clock. It's going to be a full-on sprint here at COTA. Great jump out of the final corner from Russell Ward. He takes the green flag, weaving back and forth for a little bit of warmth in the tires. That's Fred Portad. The attack is on behind, though, as David Askew is being assaulted by Giovanni Venturini, who brings that green Lamborghini up the inside into P3 overall.
With the ABS there on cold tires, a little bit of a lock up there as he tucks to the inside. Now Jordan Pepper's trying to find the way around the outside, has to give it up, tucks back in, showing a degree of patience there. There you see tails away behind David Askew. Venturini putting the pressure on Fred Portad around the outside, going to try and chase down our leader, Russell Ward, right now.
Second overall, swapping hands. Great start for Giovanni Venturini, up a couple of spots. Jordan Pepper balked by traffic, still stuck behind David Askew. Great driving by David. Can't fault him one bit. He's doing a great job, exactly what he's asked to do. But crucially, that has turned the K-Pax Lambo loose in the pursuit of the Windward Racing car, and Russell Ward is about to see. He told us, I believe I'm a pro. He's going to get tested here in a matter of moments.
That was tight there. Big stack up through turn 11. Fred Portad backed everyone up there. You see David Askew up ahead. This is on board with George Kurtz in the 04 CrowdStrike entry. Trying to get a draft up ahead of Jordan Pepper. That's the black Lamborghini you're looking at.
Side by side, Lamborghini to the inside of Mercedes. Kurtz positioning himself to try and follow Pepper through on his teammate. Those two have had contact before this year, but they get it done cleanly this time. Great driving by George Kurtz. Great racecraft. And boy, David Askew has been thrown into the hornet's nest, hasn't he? This is Michael Dinan now trying to get up another spot.
He's up on the wheel, up on the attack. And George Kurtz, 2 great braking moves there. Down in 11 and down in 12. Really tight. Look at this up ahead.
Jordan Pepper to the flank, working his way to the outside of Fred Portad, gets that move made, and George Kurtz on the move. He gets it done as well.
Yeah, George is showing great confidence in his race car right now, displaying the speed. Awesome opening lap here on the restart for George Kurtz.
A former GT4 champion in the Pirelli World Challenge days. It's taken him a couple of years to wrap his head around the GT3 car. No shame in that. These are beasts of race cars to drive. But over the last 2 seasons, George Kurtz has really found his comfort zone with coaching from Colin Brown. I think the Evo Spec Mercedes has suited him nicely too. And look at that move. A move like that a couple of years ago, I don't think we would have seen out of George.
That was really sweet, and certainly a big highlight for him. So things settling back down here. K-Pax racing entries up to second and third overall. And in class is Michael Dannon heaping the pressure on Fred Porter, trying to go around the outside.
This is for fifth overall.
It's a spin.
And a spin there. Around goes Askew. He'll have to try and get that thing restarted and recover. Not what he was looking for there. David Askew gets that car righted and rejoins the fray with Russell Ward out in front leading Giovanni Venturini. Jordan Pepper runs third. George Kurtz with that nice run. He's up into the fourth spot while Fred Portad continues to hold the fifth position overall.
Today's coverage is brought to you in partnership with Acura, Ferrari, and Lamborghini.
Start of this race was 10 minutes of action-packed GT3 racing as everyone seemed to be swapping positions, and then we got our reset there with 30 minutes to go, and the restart has been a repeat of what we saw at the start of the show.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. We're going to see some good battles resume here. Michael Dines a man on the move right now in that Turner Motorsports BMW. Up front, what can Russell Ward do? Can he hang on and maintain that gap over the two chasing Lamborghinis, the Raging Bulls?
That is the question. The gap is 2 seconds. The last time by, lap times were nearly identical, less than a tenth between the two. That's impressive stuff from Russell Ward.
This will be the telltale here, and as we look at the lap times, Russell Ward 2:10.4, Venturini at 2:09.9, Pepper at 2:09.1. He is on the attack.
Think about the experience that Russell has been able to garner over the years. He's raced a little bit in this championship, raced some GT4 series as well. As we talked about, won the 24 Hours of Daytona earlier this year. Is running GT World Challenge Europe this year. A lot of endurance type of racing gives him a ton of seat time, and he's put those lessons to good use.
He certainly has, and it's all about the mindset, just having the confidence factor, not being intimidated, just getting out there, hitting your marks, recognize you've got a great race car underneath you. Let them do their work. If they get to you, then you got to get defensive. But right now, it's all about lap time, trying to execute the most out of the race car. But Jordan Pepper seems to have the fastest car on the racetrack at this point in time.
If it's not, you're right, Jordan Pepper. That's what I was going to say, too. Russell Ward pretty quick, but here comes Pepper up the inside of the sister car, and he gets it done with relative ease. And maybe that's teammates helping teammates to some degree. Andrea Caldarelli's going to like what he's seeing.
That was sweet, and I just had a chat with the team, and we were talking about Jordan Pepper and how quickly he's up to speed. At Sonoma, for example, his third lap out of the pits was within a second of his best all weekend long. That's how prepared with the sim and everything he does to get ready for a racetrack. They also said what we have noticed working with this man over the last 18 months or so is he is a phenomenal passer, and we saw it right there.
Yeah, one thing that's been interesting about K-Pax is no matter the manufacturer they are with, they'll use some factory drivers, but if they identify talent, they'll plug them in the car. Think of Aro Perez a couple of years ago, came with McLaren, stayed with the Bentley, and was a K-Pax driver for several years.
Well, the case in point there with Jordan Pepper, he's employed by Jim Huey and the K-Pax organization. He's not a Lamborghini factory pilot. They could have probably gotten another one from the factory, but they wanted this man behind the wheel.
He might not be a Lamborghini factory driver yet, but I imagine that the folks in Bologna are taking a good, hard look at it because he has been nothing short of spectacular since getting plugged into this Huracan. And keep in mind, he's been racing Bentleys the last couple of years. Yeah, it's from the same Volkswagen group, but not a lot of similarities between the Lamborghini and the Bentley. Nevertheless, he's incredibly fast. 23-22 on the clock. It's still Russell Ward leading Jordan Pepper, who has just made his way around Giovanni Venturini, and this is how the pass was made.
Yeah, just deep into the brake zone and just surprises him. Just when Venturini's think, no, he's going to follow me through, Jordan just dives for the apex. Teammate against teammate. Have to be careful. It wasn't really touch and go in terms of being dangerous, but Venturini just realized, okay, he's got me, and now he's starting to put the hammer down, trying to chase down our leader, Russell Ward.
Let's give a call to Brendan Arib, who, again, is making his series debut with this weekend. Oh, my goodness, here comes Pepper. He has caught Ward, but Arib just made up another spot. Here comes Pepper around the outside, and he makes it work. My goodness, that was a power move.
Well, Russell Ward said, I'll just take the inside lane away from you, but he overslowed the car, dirty part of the racetrack. Jordan said, no problem. I'll just take the regular racing run. You can see Sebastian, the engineer there, big smile on his face.
Russell Ward trying to find a way back by. Very strong in the straight line section. Heavy on the brakes, and here comes Giovanni Venturini. He smells blood in the water as well. He'd love to get that spot if he could.
Lamborghini's really good through this sector, it looks like. Venturini now tucks it in as Russell was trying to find his way around the black Lamborghini. The green one tries to take advantage of it. It's a battle for class position as well, so Russell's going to fight here.
Give the spot to Giovanni Venturini, able to find his way by. Great racing, great respect between those two, though.
Just the experience factor there. I mean, Russell Ward did the right thing. He knew that Pepper would try to attack him on the inside of turn 11. He took that part of the racetrack, but overslowed the race car. Most people wouldn't even dream of going around the outside. Not Jordan Pepper. He said, I'll take that one, thank you.
Just an amazing performance from Jordan Pepper, and it's becoming a laundry list of his amazing performances. He's had great runs and big races like the Indianapolis 8-hour, Total 24 Hours of Spa, Bathurst 12-hour, and he's making them look routine in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. What a potent pairing, Jordan Pepper and Andrea Caldarelli.
Pro-Am, the lead is now held by George Kurtz. We're looking at the battle for second there with Fred Pordad aboard the number 20, Wright Motorsports Porsche. Brendan Reed again impressing. Was really strong in the wet conditions here yesterday. Now in this dry run on the attack. There he is.
Even despite a spin yesterday, he was stuck out on wet tire or dry tires in the wet and had a little bit of a spin around, but he and Ollie Milroy were excellent in difficult conditions yesterday, picking up the Pro-Am win. They were mired down the running order not that long ago. This yellow that we had a few minutes back, that gave them a new lease on life along with the K-Pax guys. Board with George Kurtz, your leader in Pro-Am. Let's take a look and listen as George makes his way around Circuit of the Americas. Long straightaway here, heavy braking zone. The car behind is the Turner BMW. That is not for class position, so George has that as an extra buffer. Plus, these two are in the middle of a contretemps of their own, going head-to-head.
About 160 miles an hour down that back straightaway as you hit the anchors for turn 12. Then this stadium section really tightens things up. Lower speed corner is this next one, turn 15. This left-hander, about 40 miles an hour rolling speed through there. Just got to be super patient, can't overdrive the race car. Then it starts to wind up again. About 110 miles an hour through the apex here. Sweeping down the hill. Love the rhythm to this section. Reminds me of Indianapolis corner at Le Mans. As you come through that straightaway and kind of flick down a gear, back to power, accelerate through.
And look, that Zelus car is closing in. That's the brightly colored Lamborghini driven by Jason Harward. And of these three, he is by far the least experienced. And yet, he's been able to close in on them over the last couple of laps. Nice opening stint for Madison Snow. And I think he is just going to school, learning everything he can, following two of the more experienced names in the field.
Been some fun battles out there today. Some for the lead. That opening 10-minute stanza was something else, but these battles for positions and podiums within the classes is going to be something to watch here till the end here in the checkered flag in about 18 minutes.
George Kurtz with a relatively healthy lead in Pro-Am, but
spin for Howard.
And I gave him the crucial curse. Apologies there to the Zelus team, but Jason Harward able to get that thing fired back up. He'll resume the challenge. Doesn't lose too much, just some time. 18-16 left, and Jordan Pepper is out in front at COTA.
Today's coverage is brought to you in partnership with Optima, Motul, and Skip Barber.
So battles up and down this field, and it's starting to heat up for the lead. I talked about it earlier, the bragging rights between the two K-Pax camps. It's been all Jordan Pepper and Andrea Caldarelli to this point, and I get the sense Giovanni Venturini has had quite enough of that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, he's certainly keeping Jordan honest here. He's not disappearing away by any stretch. Last lap through, Venturini had the upper hand by about 0.3 of a second, and that margin right there. So I'm not sure there'd be any team orders this early in the season, even though the number 3 car currently is the championship.
You talk about team orders, that is cooperation between the teams, telling them to run in their order right now. Over the years, I do think by and large K-Pax has let their guys race with one another, especially until we get down to the very end of the race, and then maybe cooler heads do need to prevail. But with 16 minutes left, I'd say let Giovanni loose, see what he can do.
Well, I think what he needs to display to the team that I have the faster race car here. I mean, I think certainly if Russell Waters put more pressure on them, then they may have to make the call earlier rather than later. But right now, they're going to let these two guys settle in. See Jordan there using plenty of the racetrack. He seems to like to be hanging on, whereas Venturini seems to be carving the corners with a bit more ease, like his car is hooked up a little bit better potentially.
Well, the last lap, it was a 0.3 of a second difference in lap time. Advantage Venturini over Jordan Pepper.
Problem is with these GT3 cars, they're pretty aero dependent, so when you get this close, not going to be ideal through the corners for Venturini, but obviously down this straightaway, the car up ahead will punch the hole in the air a little bit more effectively for you. But you see like he lost a little bit of ground there, unfortunately for him, coming off of turn 11.
It does look that way. We'll see if he can regather it and make that back up. Tell you what, Russell Ward hasn't gone anywhere, has he? He got passed, but he's been able to replicate the pace of the two cars up ahead of him.
He settled back in, as I said. This could force the call for K-Pax, even though Jordan's kind of separated himself a little bit from his teammate right now. But yes, on that last lap, the top 3, Ward had the fastest lap, admittedly by just a few hundredths over Venturini.
Pro class cars running 1, 2, 3, but then it's George Kurtz, the 4th overall spot. I thought he might be able to be one of the M's that could go on a charge when he got installed. I think that yellow helped him out a little bit, closing those gaps up together, and he was able to make a couple of aggressive moves on the restart to move himself up into the lead, where he has a healthy advantage at the moment over second place Fred Pourdad, who continues to hold off Brendan Reeb. Just 15 minutes remaining as Jordan Pepper and Giovanni Venturini lead for K-Pax Racing. Just a few moments ago, this was a really close battle between the two, but all of a sudden, Jordan Pepper found a bit more pace, and he pulled away by a second on that last lap.
Yeah, it looked like Venturini had a little bobble in turn 11. Critical corner on that back straightaway, just when he needed to be closer to Jordan Pepper to get a run, potentially catch the draft and maybe in position to make a move down in turn 12. He lost some time, and that showcased itself by the end of the lap. He is about 0.8 slower than he was on the previous lap.
Let's look at Philip Ellis, exchanging some information with the Windward team. The Pro-Am class, we've got 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in this shot right here. It's Fred Pourdad who's been able to keep Reeb off as best as he can. Let's jump on board, though, with George Kurtz, and Amanda's got an update on the class leader in Pro-Am.
Well, they were able to pick up 2 positions on that restart and lead this Pro-Am class. And Colin, as you watch George do his thing, what do you like from him, what he's doing?
Well, I like when he drives from 3rd in class to the lead, for sure. He's doing a great job, you know. I mean, he's really put a lot of effort in and work over the last few years and elevated his game. So watching him, you know, do what he did there on the restart was great. This CrowdStrike car has been pretty fast all weekend. Start was a bit of a challenge, you know, just every kind of buddy fired it in there and it was a bit of a mess. And you know, everyone's so close that opening stint. You're all just kind of bumper to bumper. And then, yeah, I mean, it's going good. These guys done a really good job all weekend. It's been a lot of work. We've had a lot of cars to keep up with and all the weather and all that. So just proud of these guys. And you know, this Mercedes has been great.
Interesting trend to the season for George Kurtz. Race 1 of the weekend, not good. Going back to Sonoma, that was the case, and it was the case again yesterday. But in both instances, bouncing back, they were winners in race 2 at Sonoma and in position to do that again.
Well, we discussed that at the top of the show for DXDT. Not a great day on Saturday. How do you bounce back? Well, you dust yourself off, you focus forward, and you do what they've done today. Two tremendous opening stints by Ryan Diallo aboard the 63, and Colin with his stint here. And but George, when he got on board, he got the tyres up to temperature. He had the confidence in the race car, cut some moves, and has now got the class lead.
Here we go again at the front of the field. There was a 1 second gap not so long ago, over a second in fact, between Pepper and Venturini, but Venturini has gathered it back in and set his personal and that car's best lap time of the race so far and carved off 9/10 of a second.
Well, Jordan's got to respond here because Russell Ward is keeping them honest. He sits there 2 seconds back from Venturini, 2.5 seconds out of the lead. So if Pepper is struggling here, I mean, we think that the car may not be 100%. They've talked about power issues, not fast through Sector 1 throughout the course of this weekend. Couldn't really put their finger on it technically and find a solution, but through great racecraft, great strategy, they've got themselves into the lead, but maybe that green car is a little bit quicker here today.
We heard Andrea downplay that to some degree. He made reference to some contact at the start of the race, bouncing around like a pinball. And is that something that might have knocked something loose and it's taken this long in the race for that to come to the fore?
Yeah, good point. I mean, I was going to counter that with, well, he laid down the fast lap of the race, but maybe it's a residual effect that's gradually having a problem. And just depends. I mean, maybe Jordan, with the tyre pressures they set, the temperatures they preset the tyres with out of the ovens is not quite correct, and now he's getting deeper into this stint. He's not got the confidence or the balance in the race car. He's got the confidence to hang on and trying to keep the lead of this race, but maybe his teammates in better shape.
It looked like there might be some traffic up the road. Let's check in with the M class. Just a single entry this weekend. We do see more on the horizon. Conrad Grunwald sharing with JC Sada. It was a difficult run at Sonoma because of a practice crash. They had a lot of repairs that they, of course, team to do. There was a brief incident earlier this weekend. I think it was in qualifying. Where the wing of that car was knocked off. But since then, it's been just a nice, solid run for the pair. They run 9th overall.
Yeah, they really, and it's a great combination. I mean, Conrad Grunwald has a lot of experience. Big drifter for about a decade. That was really his background. He was really licking his job to see if that race finished yesterday in those atrocious conditions because he thought he'd be totally at home there. But really great mentor, does a lot of coaching around various paddocks. And interestingly, he said this Ferrari is the only Ferrari GT3 car being campaigned in North America this year, which I had to stand and think about it for a moment. He's spot on there. So certainly they'll have the support from the factory.
What are we looking at here?
Well, I think that's maybe the fastest lap of the race, which was set earlier. That's the best, so it said 8.41, which compares to an 8.42. Probably the timing line where there. Okay, I believe that's the K-Pax timing stand we were looking at, possibly. I'm not sure.
I saw a Crown Strike logo. Hard to say. Board again on the Crown Strike car. George Kurtz looking right at home. The hands moving as fast as they need to, but no more. This is the look of a driver very in control, very comfortable with the balance of his car.
Could be the gap. He's 8.6 seconds behind Ward, so maybe that was the gap that we were looking at in terms of the digital readout.
Yeah, he does have Michael Dinan starting to close in on him, but this is not for class position, and Kurtz firmly in the lead in Pro-Am. Don't expect him to give Dinan too much trouble if Dinan gets there. We'll have to wait and see. Getting down to the closing moments of this race, just over 9 minutes remaining, and Jordan Pepper leads Giovanni Venturini by half a second. I think that's the repaired Reardon Racing Lamborghini up the road. They lost a lot of time with some bodywork damage. Actually took the car back to their garage at one point in this race. So Jeff Burton out there logging laps, trying to gain some experience in the GT3 car, of which he has very little.
A bit of a test session as well, just to make sure the car is 100%. Pepper there just slices to the inside. He's decisive, isn't he?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He saw the gap and didn't hesitate at all. And that's the mark of a good overtaker, right? The best of the best.
Well, establish yourself. It's when you get halfway down the side of someone, then you try to get out of it and don't want to. That's when you're going to turn someone around or create damage. And either way, it's not good. You're going to get a penalty.
Well, and also you earn the reputation of when I'm coming, then everyone knows to get out of your way. And I know you raced a certain A. Senna who had that reputation back in your day.
Yeah, and I think that I truly believe that in terms of that intimidation factor, in terms of in Formula One, when you saw that yellow helmet behind you, you knew if there was a half a gap, he was going to go for it. Michael Andretti had the same thing in his IndyCar career. Dale Earnhardt Jr., the intimidator, the ultimate intimidator. So I'm a firm believer in that. And sometimes you got to pay the price initially. You may get it wrong, but sooner or later, everyone in this paddock will know if there's half a chance, he's going to be coming through. So how much do I want to fight it?
I think they've got to take notice of what we've seen from Jordan Pepper so far. You know, Andrea Caldarelli is largely a known commodity. I mean, a Lamborghini factory driver par excellence. He's won endurance races left and right, big-time races. Pepper, I think, until the last couple of years, we were not really sure where he had come from when Bentley snatched him up, but man, it looked like they knew exactly what they were getting.
Yeah, he's really come on strong. I'm the same with you. I didn't really follow or commentate on many of his races. Saw him like 2 or 3 years ago at the California 8 Hours, and just seemed like he was in the mix. Not outstanding, but boy, when K-Pac says he's our guy, we want him, we need him for next year. That's really a big proponent of his skills.
He got to cut his teeth racing a GT World Challenge Europe for K-Pax when they ran that Endurance Cup program based in the States, but over in Europe last year against some of the best GT3 teams in the world, and it definitely helped raise their game. Less than 6.5 minutes remain, and Jordan Pepper has built that lead back to over a second. They just crossed the timing line. Let's see what it is officially. Nearly 2 seconds. That was a huge lap from Jordan. He put in a 2:09.8. Giovanni Venturini, 2:11.1.
It seems like the times are this late in the stage. I mean, right before the round of pit stops in the earlier phase of this race, the leaders were still cutting times about a second within their best. So I'm sure if the track is just a little bit off later in the going, get a bit greasy with the high ambient and track temperatures we're seeing later in the day.
I have to believe for a lot of these teams, too, it was a bit of a guessing game knowing what to do with the setup because the track was going to be green, and we'd had almost no dry running of consequence in the build-up to this race.
Yeah, my thought initially was that maybe they got the tyre pressures wrong for Jordan Pepper. That was why his teammate here, Venturini, was keeping the pressure on. But now as we get a bit deeper, he's taken off again. Real seesaw. It doesn't seem to be the normal consistent little delta spread that we see. Big jumps, it seems.
Yeah, that is a little bit strange. Well, how about it? Another 1-2 is the way it's shaping up for K-Pax. They didn't get it yesterday. There were some issues for the number 6 car that caused them to fade late in the going in all that rain. But it was perfect in Sonoma and right back to their winning ways. And in the same order. I mean, this is going to make the pairing of Pepper and Caldarelli really difficult to catch in the championship. I guess the good news for their pursuers is there's only 4 cars in the class, so even if you finish last, it's still 4th place points. Helps to mitigate some of the problems, but even still.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough road. I mean, and that's okay. I think with respect, I think the Turner Motorsports Group with Robbie Foley and Michael Dinan, and also the Winwood Racing team with Philip Ellis and Russell Ward, they probably thought it was going to be a long road to try and beat the K-Pax squad with their experience, with their speed, with the Lamborghinis, with the factory support, with the factory drivers. But I think their goal is to try and steal a few victories from them this year, reset for next year, and come back stronger.
Looks like there might be a chance to do it, but we did have a full course yellow for a lost wheel, Rodrigo Salas. And right after his pit stop, lost a wheel that was sitting on the side of the road. Prompted a full course yellow, and that reset things. And after a miserable qualifying, quite frankly, from K-Pax, where they started all the way back in 8th and 9th, that gave them the chance to go and fight for the lead. I do wonder if we hadn't seen that yellow, if Winward might not have been in the catbird seat.
I believe so, because Russell Ward, even though he's been passed by the 2 Lamborghinis, certainly has displayed enough pace. And with the buffer that he had, it would have been tight. They would have probably closed in on him a little bit, but he may have had enough in hand to maintain the lead.
Yeah, Russell right now running within 3/10 of the leader. A little bit more off of what Venturini ran that last time by as those two continue to rubber band back and forth. It's been really curious to watch that. George Kurtz with a handy lead still in Pro-Am. He's got Michael Dinan behind him in the Turner car. Dinan's not been able to make too many inroads. And we chronicled earlier the duel between Poor Dad and Arib. Those two have not swapped positions, but they continue to run within a second of each other.
curious to know whether Jordan is fighting something with the car, because at this level, at this pro level, you typically don't see this up and down with the lap times. I mean, there's not a ton of traffic that's really hampered him at all. And to see lap times fluctuating by a second, or close to a second, is extremely unusual at this stage of the game. You'll see over a stint as the tires go away a little bit or the track conditions change, but not lap to lap.
Once again, looking in at the AF Corso run, Ferrari. JC Sada behind the wheel. Comes from Ferrari Challenge Racing. It's where he and Conrad got to know one another. Put this program together, and talk about big-time teams. AF Corsa coming to GT World Challenge America. That is nothing to blink your eyes at. Very impressive resume with AF Corsa in championships all over the world, big-time races all over the world.
Yeah, David Empringham was coaching there and set up Conrad with the opportunity. David was a standout single-seater driver, did a little bit of sports car racing as well. Heavily involved in coaching Ferrari Challenge competitors and others. Ooh, bit wide there for Michael Dynan. That was definitely outside of the track limits, so might get his first warning of the day for that one.
Didn't look like it gained him a whole lot, and that's one of the things that the stewards are looking at as far as track limits go. You definitely, you know, they're all ex-drivers. They understand you might make a mistake, you run a little bit wide here and there, and they're going to be more willing to look at it and think twice about issuing any kind of penalty or whatever if nothing is gained and it's a simple mistake, and that's kind of the way that one looked to me, at least.
Here we go again. I'm not sure if they're looking for a photo finish, but suddenly Venturini is all over the tail of his team car.
You might be onto something. The white flag was displayed the last time by, and so for the photographers, it would appear, the two Raging Bulls, the Lamborghinis, running nose to tail from K-Pax Racing. Doesn't matter what manufacturer K-Pax runs, Volvo, Porsche, McLaren, Bentley, now Lamborghini. It is a quality operation, and they always come to the front.
Yes, it certainly went over to Europe last year. Oh, and here we see a pass for the lead. Venturini looking down to the inside. He's going to make that move. Jordan gives it to him. He's not fighting this.
That's really interesting. That came out of nowhere. I mean, Venturini's lap times have been good, but that looked awfully easy. Although, here comes Pepper. He is going to make a show of fighting back at least.
Well, it's tough to tell. They're teammates, so they're not going to be too feisty here, but they give each other ample room. I just can't imagine Jordan would just let him drive by him like that unless there's some sort of team orders or something going on with the race car.
We have had reports that car has struggled at various times with straight line speed. That could have hurt him in the run into turn 12 there. Gave the advantage to Giovanni Venturini. He shares this car with Corey Lewis. Jordan Pepper taking a peek to the inside here through turn number 20. Can he get alongside? He cannot. And Giovanni Venturini scores his first win of the season in the number 6 car for K-Pax Racing.
Well, they got the photo finish, but I didn't expect it to be with the green car up front. Very bizarre there.
Wow. So another 1-2 for K-Pax, but this time it is the number 6 that finds victory lane. George Kurtz across the start-finish line for the second time this year. He is a Pro-Am class winner, along with DXDT Racing and co-driver Colin BRAUN.
Just wondering whether Pepper thought they were just going to hold station and Venturini wasn't aware.
Wouldn't be the first time that's happened, or if Giovanni decided maybe not to listen, or I didn't hear that. I don't know. That's just us speculating. It is worth noting, Fred Pourdad did hold off Brendan Areve for the second spot in Pro-Am. That ended up being a 1-second margin between those two. What a duel they had. And here comes the AF Corsa car. Conrad Grunwald and JC Sada bring that car home in the 10th position overall. Great run for the lone AM class runner in the field, but it's all K-Pax Racing at the front of the field the way that it has been all season long. This time, though, Giovanni Venturini and Corey Lewis pick up the race win in race number 2 of the weekend at Circuit of the Americas. Wild racing to get this one started. We had that restart and a lot of great duels going on then, and then the unexpected duel between these two
Totally.
late in the race. I wonder what happened.
There was really an ebb and flow of the lap times for the number 3 car, Jordan Pepper, and suddenly Venturini was right on him, half a lap to go. Made a very easy move. I mean, even though it's a teammate, and if you got a wounded car possibly or something to miss, I just can't imagine Jordan being willing to give up the win unless he was under the illusion that they were just going to sit there in the same order to the checkered flag, and Venturini just thought, hey, I'm okay to go for the win.
I'd imagine so. He and Corey Lewis will be celebrating that. Corey has a number of big-time GT3 race wins to his credit already in other championships. Very stout behind the wheel of these Huracans. He came up as well through Super Trofeo. Similar story to Giacomo ALTOE. We kind of thought that Corey Lewis might be headed to the open wheel ranks early on, but kind of ran out of opportunities there and found a home in sports car racing, and a lot of it has been because of the association with Lamborghini.
Yeah, he's really, you know, put in his work, put in some tremendous performances. And as you said, he had a single-seater career he's looking at, good friends with the Andretti's, hails from Nazareth, Pennsylvania as well. But he's found his home here with Lamborghini.
He has indeed, and another home with K-Pax. And my understanding is the team has been relying on him some this weekend with track knowledge, because he's been around this place in Lamborghinis, Super Trofeo cars, in the past. And none of the other drivers in the lineup had ever set foot here at COTA in the past. So definitely useful there. He and Giovanni Venturini teaming up. That's interesting. Jordan Pepper out of the car and immediately starts inspecting something.
Yeah, he had something going on with that race car. No bad feelings there, like he thought he shouldn't have been passed, but he was struggling with something.
Yes, he was. I'm very curious about this victory lane interview. No question, well-deserved. Great drive from Giovanni Venturini and Corey Lewis. And we'll be hearing from them and the rest of our class winners coming up from Circuit of the Americas in just a moment. The helmet is off. Jordan Pepper finishes second in the final analysis, but a few moments ago, Calvin, he jumped out of that race car and immediately started looking first underneath at the back with the rear diffuser and then the right rear. Amanda is standing by with the K-Pax Racing guys. What can you tell us, Amanda?
Well, Gio hasn't really said a word since he pulled up. I think he might still be in surprise as well, but when you saw that you were able to pass Jordan, what gave you that moment?
Well, honestly, I struggled a lot with the rear tires. I had no traction at all, but yeah, you know, we tried everything to win this race as a play team, you know. I don't know in English now, I'm a bit confused. But anyway, thanks to Jordan, thanks to K-Pax, Lamborghini, everyone for this 1-2 again. So looking forward for the next race.
Jordan, you popped out of the car and you immediately looked underneath it. What were you fighting there at the end?
I don't know. I think I had a similar issue to Giovanni, and it came at different stages with the rear tires. You know, it's so hot here in Texas. It's conditions we haven't experienced before, so it's all a learning curve, and we just had to manage it through to the end. You know, there would be nothing worse than giving it our absolute all and getting a puncher on the last lap. And I started to feel a massive vibration on the rear right. I don't know if it was pickup or delamination, and yeah, I think I pushed one lap too. The race had to be one lap shorter for me to get the victory today. But congrats to our sister car. They drove an incredible race, and after yesterday they had so much troubles in the rain, and I think it's only fitting that they were able to get the win today as well.
Well, you're looking at number 1 and number 2 here for the Fanatec World Challenge.
Yeah, great stuff from the K-Pax Racing team. Interesting comments there as well from Jordan Pepper. We'll talk about that more here in just a little bit. So we continue to go through the post-race here. Let's go back down to Amanda, get some more from her.
We are lining up here on pit lane. Everyone's excited about pictures. Our winners are out of the car. And George, I'm going to start with you. Based on the challenges that you guys had yesterday, when you earned the win, how much more gratifying is that?
It was unbelievable. You know, we had a rough weekend. We had to go to our backup car, and the team just fought through it and did a great job. So, and this guy had a great opening stint with a little damage on the car. So, extremely satisfying.
Well, you guys have had a trend of performing well in race number 2. How will you take this and look for a better in the IR?
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. I mean, this CrowdStrike has been driving super good, and so if we get a little the Fridays, I think that'll set us up for a little bit better Saturday. You know, we've got good pace. We just keep at it and keep working. You know, we win as a team, and you know, we just keep working. It's going really well. Really happy.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
A really interesting story there as well. Going to the backup car, bouncing back with the win. George Kurtz and Colin Brown get it done with their second Pro-Am win. I had forgotten about that they had the issue earlier in the weekend, and they had to chassis, and boy, that was not a setback at all, it seems, for DXTT Racing. Well prepared.
A well-prepared team, have the resources, obviously. They do a lot of engineering help there, so they're doing everything. It just showcases how tough it is some days. Luck is a little bit against you, but they came back exactly with a strong push here today.
Let's go back to the comments from Pepper. What did you weigh from what he had to say?
Well, I think he had a lot. I think he will be concerned about whether he had the car to the checkered flag. He didn't want to have the car flat out, and he had a team behind him whose car was maybe a touch healthy, even though Giovanna said that he may have had some issues going on as well. So I think it was just one of those where you suddenly got massive vibration, big noises in the back of the race car, and you thought of defending the you normally would on the last lap goes out of the window. You thought it was just survival.
Well, he did do that, and it's still another very good race after 3 wins to start the season for Andrea Caldarelli and Jordan Pepper. And I think Venturini and Lewis both had good pace all weekend long. Not like it's not a deserving win. At various times, Venturini longer of the two in that last stint.
I'm now thinking back to when Venturini first went out there. He didn't have the pace we were. So maybe they started that car with slightly lower tire temperatures out of the oven, slightly lower pressures, didn't give him that initial speed. To help him out.
It's definitely a possibility. And then as we look at the results there up on the screen, big bounce back is mentioned for George Kurtz and company with the DXTT Racing. Dad, he inherited the overall lead there. He drove quite well, and the duel he had with Brendan Arib in his debut here in the series to show for a second in Pro-Am.
Yeah, I think for Fred, he really needed just a couple of laps to get it. He gets that rhythm. And if he has someone sit behind him for a couple of laps, that then gives him the confidence. You know what? I can stay here. And then if someone sneaks it down the inside, he's willing to get his elbow.
A couple of unfortunate results. Company inability to start in the race yesterday had the loose wheel. They end up in 13th overall. Michael Cooper and Aaron Vogel after the pit stop. That was very strange. And then the issues really early for Racer's Edge as Reardon Racing, and they're all going to be to VIR where they can put the taste of this thing wrapped up here in COTA behind them as quickly as possible. Celebration about to get underway on the rostrum at Circuit of the Americas, the most prized piece of real estate. I think it's safe to say, sprawling facility. Let's go ahead and take another look at the final results. Giovanni Venturini, Corey Lewis, Mason, Pepper Caldarelli second, another 1-2 for K-Pax, and then a really strong fighting third for Windward Racing, coming away also with a earlier today.
Yeah, great to see the other two pro racing entries have strong weekends. Turner Motorsport yesterday, Michael Dinan's start and holding the lead for many laps is really something to hat on. And Windward Racing coming off a great podium run. All had a great fight. That opening 10 minutes with Philip Ellis duking it out with Jan Helling was sensational.
It was. Swapping spots back and forth. Clean racing. We had some spins. We had the one full course yellow, but no major contact.
No, it's just good, hard racing. I mean, just that fine line. It didn't get ugly. It didn't get nasty. No one giving an inch, but certainly good stuff.
It was indeed. Let's look at the point standings leaving this. And Even with the second place finish, still a healthy 20-point lead for Andrea Caldarelli and Jordan Pepper in the championship.
Yeah, and I think this is why Andrea Caldarelli is elected to be at VIR and not at Nürburgring 24-hour race. So he wants to win this championship. He has the lead, and they don't come easy. So when you're in a position like they are, strong start to the season, great team, great car, he wants to be here and compete.
He does. That is the point standings after 4 races in the pro category. It's been a dogfight in Pro-Am all season long. The team points, though, in Pro, as you'd expect. K-Pax Racing still perfect on the season, now split between the 2 crews.
Yeah, and they're going to be tough to beat, but we're 2 events into 7 championship rounds. We expect a 7th to be announced in October, potentially first weekend of October, before the finale at Indy.
Yep, no, can't wait for some clarification on that, but still a lot to look ahead to with VIR up next. These GT3 cars making their way through those Climbing S's at VIR. Some of the most spectacular views you'll see of GT3 racing anywhere.
Very different racetrack. Yes, you could talk about the S's being similar, but the edge of the road is a lot closer there at VIR, just as we had at Sonoma. This is kind of the new age circuit the Americas, home of the US Grand Prix. We now go to one of the most fabulous, most scenic racetracks at Virginia.
So many smiling faces up on that podium, but this day belonged to Giovanni Venturini and Corey Lewis. Able to make the pass on the final lap. They take the lead and the win. First win of the season for that duo. It's been a lot of fun at Circuit of the Americas. The next round coming up in June at VIR. And yeah, what a great start to the season for K-Pax. Back in the championship after more or less a year away. They did run the 1 round here to start the season with a Bentley and a Pro-Am. But yeah, big bounce back for them, and great to have them back at the series. Certainly, it doesn't seem quite right to have an SRO or Pirelli World Challenge race without K-Pax in the mix. Well, that's going to do it for the show here this weekend at Circuit of the Americas. Big thanks to our whole crew for bringing all the action to you. I hope you've enjoyed the racing. It was spectacular in the rain yesterday and the dry here today. We head on to the next round at Virginia International Raceway in June.